This is part 5 of the series on vectors, section 6.3, and in this video we'll talk about the standard unit vectors. Okay, the standard unit vectors working in 2 dimensions are I, which is 1, 0, and j, which is 0, 1. So they are each 1 unit. That's why they're unit vectors. The vector I moves 1 unit in the horizontal direction, and j moves 1 unit in the vertical direction. And all other vectors can be described using I and j. Any vector can be written as what we call a linear combination of I and j. So for example, the vector 2, 5. Right? This is written in component form. Is the same thing as 2i plus 5j. This is a linear combination of the standard unit vectors. That is a very long name. That's pretty much what your book always calls it. Other textbooks will refer to this as IJ form. Now, just so you can see how these are really equivalent to each other, 2i plus 5j, that would be the same thing as 2 times 1, 0 plus 5 times 0, 1. And 2 times 1, 0 would be the same thing as 2, 0. 5 times 0, 1 would be 0, 5. And if you add these together, you get a vector that has a horizontal component of 2 and a vertical component of 5. So it is pretty much what it looks like. If this is 2, 5, this is going to be 2i plus 5j. There's another example. If you have horizontal component -3, then you'll have -3 times I. If you have a vertical component of -1, then you'll have -1 times j. So in general, if it's a comma b, then it could be written as ai plus bj. So it's very easy to switch back and forth between the forms. Now, a couple problems that they'll ask you to do. Here's one. Write the vector as a linear combination of the standard unit vectors I and j, given the initial point is -3, 2, and the terminal point is 5, 1. This is very much like the problems we started off doing earlier, and we were using component form instead. You can draw yourself a picture if you like. Here's the initial point, -3, 2. Here's the terminal, 5, 1, and you can see what the vertical and the horizontal components are. Horizontally, it's going to be moving 8 to the right, right? Which is found by subtracting 5 minus -3. And then the vertical component it goes down 1, so that would be -1. And you can find that by subtracting the vertical components. So if you take the terminal points coordinates, horizontal 5, and then subtract the initial point, horizontal component of -3, that will give you the overall horizontal. So that would be 8. And so we'll multiply that by vector I. And then if we subtract the vertical components, 1 minus 2, that'll give you -1, and that's what will be multiplied by j. So then the answer is 8i minus j. And one more type of question that you'll see. Find the component form of vector v, where vector u is 7i plus 2j, and vector w is 9i minus j. And here's our description of vector v, that it is 4 times vector u plus 2 times vector w. Okay, you could work this in component form, or you can leave it in the IJ form. right? Will not matter. So let's just leave it in the ij form. So you're going to do multiplying by the scalar 4 times vector u. So 4 times 7i plus 2j, right? That is the same thing as 4 times 7 comma 2, which we know to be 28 comma 8. So when you do 4 times 7i plus 2j, that's going to be 28i plus 8j. All right, now I wrote that in pencil because you don't really have to put it in component form. Okay, so that's the 4 times u part, plus 2 times w. All right, the same idea. 2 times vector w, which is 9i minus j, in component form is 9 comma negative 1. So multiplying by the scalar of 2, that would be 18 comma negative 2. So we're looking at 18i minus 2j. And then we're supposed to add those together. Okay. So if you were looking at the component forms, the way you would add the component forms together is you would add the horizontal components, 28 plus 18. So that's what you're going to do here. You're going to add 28 plus 18. So you're going to have 46i. That'll be your horizontal component. And the vertical components, you would add 8 and negative 2. It's the same thing here. You're adding 8j and negative 2j, so you're going to end up with 6j. So I did it a little bit the long way. Basically, what I have in green, with the exception of this step here, would be all the work that you would need to show.